Hello my friends and welcome back to the classroom. Today we are going to look at something which people have commented on for a long time, which is to say that they don't understand how I pick up a brand new game, crank the difficulty up and just start playing it, and then just start beating it, having never played that particular game before. And that got me thinking about the true fundamentals of strategy in video games. And that led me to this. It is a PowerPoint presentation of all things I have put together. But I hope, unlike most PowerPoint presentations you've looked at in your life, this one will not be boring. On the true fundamentals of strategy, the real building blocks before you move up to really anything else. Now, in each thing that we're going to talk about, which is attack versus defense, the triangle of power, and money now is greater than money later, I'm going to present a proof for each thing, which it's a technical proof of why it is definitely true, following basically irrefutable logic. And then we're going to talk about some of the general points of each thing. So anyway, I hope that all will become clear as we go through the lesson, and I hope that this lesson in particular is useful to everybody, both novices and experienced strategists. Maybe this will just put into words things that you already knew. Maybe this will really open a door for you mentally. I don't know, but I'm putting this out there because this is really the foundations of the house. If you are going to build the house of being good at strategy games, you need to get those foundations down, and this is really the foundations of the foundations. So, without further ado, as we say in the UK, let us begin. Okay, so you've probably heard pro gamers or other strategists out there talk about it's preferable to attack, and they'll have given you some reasons for that. They'll say things like, you know, when you attack, you control the situation, you control the gameplay, you control something called the tempo. It's easier to do things than to react to things. When you're attacking, you are doing something to the other player or the enemy, and this is just a trait of humans. It is harder to react than it is to do something. It's that simple. Reactions invoke delay, and delay is not good in anything that you're doing. But when you're attacking, there is nothing to react to, as it were. Although I suppose you could react to defenses, but you probably got already some idea of how you're going to attack when you attack. And so it's mentally less taxing to attack than it is to defend. It disrupts the plans of the enemy. So when you're attacking, whatever the other player is doing, which is almost certainly something other than preparing for your attack, or hopefully it should be something other than preparing for your attack. If they're already preparing for your attack, then your attack is probably going to fail. But anyway, whatever they're doing, they have to put that on hold to address the situation which you have created, and then they have to come up with a new plan from that position, assuming that they survive your attack. So you are disrupting whatever it is that they want to do. And of course, the most obvious one, the win condition of a game, of any game, is to eliminate the other player. Almost in every strategy game that there ever was, the goal is to eliminate the other player, right? And you must attack. You must destroy all of their units, or all of their buildings, or all of their possessions in order to do that. Now, why must attack be better than defense? This is the technical proof of it. attacking must be better than defending. Because if defending was the best course of action, then all players would defend, and the result would always be a draw. That's the thing. Games, strategy games, in symmetrical situations, i.e., both players start with the same resources and units and so on, they must reward attacking over defending. They must make it easier to be the aggressor than the defender, because otherwise every game would result in a draw. Because, players are not stupid, right? If the best thing to do is defend, then everyone is going to defend, and then you get a draw. If both players defend and neither attacks, you create a stalemate, and neither player can win. So every game must create the situation where attacking the other player is the winning move, however it's done. And you may say, well, someone attacks, the other guy defends, the defense is excellent, the attack is smashed, and so the defending player won. But that's not technically true. What is true is that after the attack failed and the defender smashed the attack, the defender then took all his units and counterattacked and destroyed the attacker, who now has no defenses. That's actually the move that won the game. Yes, I get, it boils down to the fact that a robust defense led to the situation that caused the attack to succeed and therefore end the game. But the absolute proof of the matter is that the destruction of the other player is the reason why you won the game. And in fact, people have lost multiplayer games. Very good players, professional players, have lost multiplayer games because they have successfully smashed an enemy attack because they gathered the right intelligence and prepared the correct defenses. And then they did not, after surviving the attack, after smashing the attacking forces, they did not then immediately take their units and successfully attack the other player. And so the other player managed to attack the map, as in massively expand, take loads of extra resources, rebuild, and try again and succeed. Basically, this is often referred to as letting the other player get back in the game. And they did that. They let the other guy get back in the game. So, you have to remember that attacking must be rewarded because games want there to be a winner. There has to be a winner. No game is fun that ends in a draw or a stalemate every single time. And so, attacking must be better than defending. But it's not just about attacking the enemy. It can also be about attacking the map or expanding. But we'll talk about that on the later topic, on the money topic. Okay, so once you understand that attacking is better than defending, what are you looking for? So this is a concept that I came up with. I don't know if it exists out there somewhere, but this is what I use. This is my thoughts crystallized. The triangle of power is force, range, and speed. So force is the attacking power of a unit. Range is how the distance from which it can attack. And speed is its ability to move around the map. And often speed can also include things like the rate of fire of a unit and so on. But generally speaking, it's about the actual movement of the unit. So why are these three things important? Well, speed is important because it allows you to get the best positions, to take the resources first, to be where you need to be before the other guy is. In a lot of games, there are pickups or resources that you want to control, and they go to whoever gets there first. So speed can be a critical part of why a unit or a particular item in the game is good. Force, obviously, attack power, deal damage to the enemy, destroy your enemy, of course, is the most important thing, and that is why it's at the top. The whole point of attacking is to destroy the enemy. So, of course, the first thing that we look at for anything is the amount of damage it does. Sometimes people overvalue force to the point of comedy. You have to remember it's a triangle, not a single thing on its own. So the famous example, the Battletech example, the AC2, has this massive attack value, but it has almost no range and a whole host of other issues besides. So you have to remember that this is a triangle of balance, and while force is at the top and is the most important, something can have incredible force and still be terrible, which is why you want a pair of things, and we'll talk about those in a second. And finally, range. Range is important because it allows you to inflict violence upon your enemy from a safe distance without them being able to return that damage. But once again, range on its own is not useful. You must have the two things. You must have two things on the triangle for something to actually be good. And so, what units have out of these three determines how you use them, and the three primary strategies for winning strategy games. So they are ganker, sniper, and kiter. So we'll talk about these. So ganker is force and speed, units with immense attack value and the ability to be very quick to close in on a target. This tends to be melee units, and I would say that this is the weakest of the three, but it cannot be underestimated because, for an example, StarCraft Zerglings are gankers. They are fast and they have great force, and they are just an absolutely key part of that game. So the whole point of the ganker is to close the distance on the target as quickly as possible, and then they can apply that immense force. And so units that have these two qualities are always very powerful. But out of the three, perhaps the least powerful. It does depend on the game. And then force and range. This is usually the most powerful combination. Almost every strategy game has got some kind of artillery unit that is really overpowered. It's very hard to balance these two things together. Once again, if you look at StarCraft as an example, the siege tank had both force and range, and to balance that out, they put so many negatives on it. Like, for example, they made it so that it can't move at all when it's firing, and that there's a whole setup sequence before you can fire it. So they completely removed the speed from the triangle of power. And they also made it so that its actual vision is bad. So its range can only be truly utilized if there's some other unit spotting for it. So in a way, they are it has range, but it doesn't have range. And that is the lengths you need to go to balance these two things, because sniper is usually the most powerful combination of traits a unit can have in a strategy game, because it usually means that you can severely damage, if not destroy, other units, enemy units, before they can do anything to you, before they can close the distance, before they can react. These two are usually the most powerful combination, but not always. But it's something that I look for. This is probably the highest thing on my list for any strategy game I'm looking for, is a unit that has these qualities. And finally, speed and range, the kiter. So this is a technique where you are, whatever the damage you do is, it can be very small. But the point is that if you have more range than the enemy, and you are faster than the enemy, then you are able to attack the enemy and run away, and attack and run away, and attack and run away, and attack and run away forever until they die. That is the kiting strategy. Like a kite on a string, the kite is in the air at a certain distance from you, and no matter where you move while you're holding that string, no matter where you move 100 meters away. Of course, you're holding the string, so the kite moves with you, and it's 100 meters away. The point is that the kite is at the very extent of its range, picking away at you, and when you move towards it, it moves away. So therefore, you can never catch it. Now, this is the weakest of the one of the triangle of power strategies, because kiters can be defeated in a few ways. Kiting is intense on the player, as in the player must be very carefully controlling the units, for example. The player has got to be attacking, then moving, then attacking, then moving, assessing where the enemy is, attacking, then moving. If the enemy then tries to go around, then they've got to attack again, but then move in a different direction, and they must consider the terrain as they're moving around. So kiting requires a lot of player input to be successful, which is often hugely taxing. This is known as micro in real-time strategy games. In turn-based games, it is also possible to do. It's a lot less micro. It usually involves some kind of unit that can fire and move. They're pretty rare in turn-based games because of the sheer power of them in turn-based games. If you take the micro element away, they are intensely powerful. And the other way in which kiters usually get crushed is that the other player boxes them into a corner or against a wall, or has units waiting somewhere, and they corral the kiter into that ambush that's waiting for them. But nevertheless, this is a very powerful combination, and so it is on the triangle of power. These are the three strategies. When I play a new game, I am looking for the units that have any 2 points of these three on there, and what points they have on the triangle determines how those units should be utilized to win. Knowing that, I'm looking for the best attacking units because attacking beats defending, and then I have these general strategies to use with those particular units. Okay, let's talk about the other kind of attacking, which is to aggressively take. It's thievery, if you will, or expanding. It is the taking of things from the map or from the other player, expanding, as it's known in some games. Basically, moving out aggressively, but economically. And there are lots of ways to do this in strategy games. All good strategy games, multiplayer ones, have resources on the map or superior positions that are not anywhere near where you start, and so you must aggressively move out to take those things, and the other guy, if he's any good or she's any good, will also be going out there to try and take those things, or utilizing the situation to attack you and win the game. So this is the other side of aggression, is the expanding, taking territory, taking resources, aggressively pushing to control more than 50% of the map's resources. If you're going to win with this kind of thing, then it's often a push to get 55% of the bases, the map's resources, or 60% of the map's resources. Having more resources than the enemy and then playing equally to them will grant you a win. Now, simple proof of money now being more important than money later, as in trying to take money immediately rather than having maybe a greater position, or receiving greater money later. There's a simple proof for this, which is, if a game was to last 5 minutes on average, then any great reward that comes after this time is objectively worse than any small reward that comes earlier. So if your opponent can receive a reward at any time before the game on average would conclude, and you're gunning for a reward that's going to come later, that later reward is useless, because assuming that you are as good as the other guy, well, it's you versus the other guy who is as good as you are, but he's got bonus resources, however small. He has bonus resources that he is using during the game, the part of the game state that matters, the early part, and you do not have that advantage. Now, you may get a bigger advantage later, but the point is that the other guy will almost certainly close out the game before that advantage comes into play. And so, a breakpoint has to exist where the earlier reward is superior to the later one, simply because it arrives early enough to affect the game. This is a funny thing that happens in RPGs as well, is like, people are like, oh, you know, I'm going to build this ultimate character in an RPG. And the ultimate character will be dumpster tier bad until it's like, until 80-90% of the game is over. And then suddenly it will be the most powerful character that is theoretically possible. And it's like, well, you just made the game ridiculously difficult for yourself for 90% of the playtime. Now, the last 10% is going to be easy, and you're going to have, you know, you're going to have this great character. But in a multiplayer game, in a strategy game, in that early period where you were weak, the other guy, presuming equal skill, is just going to dumpster you. And that's the point, is in cases of equal skill, or situations where both players have equal chance to win, making yourself weak for a huge amount of time is leaving a massive window open in which the other guy can attack you, which is what he wants to be doing, and therefore winning the game, and therefore ending the game. And so therefore, it is almost always the case that any early rewards, money now, money in hand immediately, that is doing stuff for you, units now, resources now, are better than resources later. You want to always be thinking about how you can grow the little takes that you get early into an insurmountable advantage. I just put at the bottom here, the reward that arrives first will always be useful simply because it exists to shatter the mirror. The mirror is the idea that you have two players who are equally skillful in a perfectly balanced game. The result should always be a draw. That is the mirror. That is the two players who are completely equal, choosing the same race and the same units, executing the same strategy. That is the mirror. You know, this idea that you have a mirror in front of you and you have an exact copy of yourself. Well, if one person takes an early reward, however small it is, if it impacts the game, it breaks the mirror. And therefore that player, that tiny advantage is now a game-winning advantage, because the other player doesn't have that advantage and everything else is equal. So therefore that player must win, because they're in a slightly better position. And that's the simple proof that money now beats money later economically in strategy games. Almost always. Okay, so we talked about some of this. Economic aggression is another route of attack. Immediate rewards often spiral out of control. So, you know, immediately getting extra money leads to buying more stuff that gets more money, that spirals out of control. This is known as the snowball effect. And economic cheese, for those of you who don't know what cheese is, in a strategy game, a cheese is when you have a very, very carefully executed, very early game attack that is difficult to stop, or almost impossible to stop if unscouted. But typically, if the other player scouts it, they will be able to defend it, and then you'll be left in a weak position where you can be counterattacked and destroyed. Well, economic cheese is that same kind of careful execution, but it's to go out there and grab resources as early, just grab as many resources as you can as early as possible, with no regard for your defense and just hoping that the other guy doesn't notice until it's too late. And it is no less deadly than the real cheese of the attacking cheese. Now, obviously, the attacking cheese beats the economic cheese, and I would say that balanced gameplay beats economic cheese, because usually a balanced player's got some expansion and some army, and they will discover the economic cheeser early enough to punish them. But it works. Economic cheese is often executed after a failed attack as well, to try and get back into the game. But it's another route of attacking. And so this more applies to real-time games than turn-based ones, but the two takeaways that I want people to have from this, things that I've learned through my own years of experience, is that good decisions now are better than the best decisions made too late, which is sort of the same as money now is better than money later, but with decision making. If you're playing a real-time strategy game and you don't know what to do, just make a good decision. Don't try and waste time thinking of what the best decision or what the best move might be, or what the other player might be doing, and burning like 15, 20, 30 seconds trying to figure out what the best move is. Just make a good move. And you obviously think about what you're doing in that process. But good decisions made now, like good decision, okay, I'll make some extra units. Good decision at this moment would be to put a defense here where I'm weak. A good decision might be to expand my economy. Whatever those good decisions are, obviously they need to be good decisions, but they don't have to be the best decisions. You don't have to spend time paralyzed thinking what the absolute best decision is. Just make good decisions now. That is better than making the best possible decision too late. You may think later, oh, I should have done this. But if it took you 30 seconds to do that, that delay would put you into a worse situation than if you had just done what you did that was good on time. And the final thing I want to say is that if you are not attacking economically, i.e. expanding and taking territory and grabbing stuff and basically just forcing yourself out there, and you're not attacking traditionally, i.e. amassing an army and going after the other guy and trying to damage them as much as possible, if you're not doing one of those two things, then you are almost certainly losing the game. This is the key mistake that most people make, and why you'll find that most good strategy gamers are aggressive and twitchy, in that in their mind they are thinking, oh, I'm not expanding and I'm not attacking, therefore right now I am losing the game. I should be doing one of those two things. I should be either out there forcing my position into a better position, or I should be out there attacking the enemy, harassing the enemy, damaging the enemy, destroying their assets, frustrating their expansion, etc. And since I'm not doing one of those two things, I'm deeply uncomfortable, because I understand that if I'm not doing those things, I am probably, or actually almost certainly, losing the game. And so that mindset is very important for a good strategy gamer, is to realize, oh, I'm sitting on my hands, I'm defending, I'm waiting for stuff. That is not normally a winning strategy. You actually want to be attacking. Okay. Any questions on this very important lesson? Please drop them in the comments. Remember the technicalities of proof, which is that when you're proving something, both sides of it need to be identical. That is to say that both players need to be equally skillful. They both need to have been given the same start positions and all that kind of thing. You can't disprove attack is better than defense by, talking about a map where, for example, the AI has been forced to mindlessly attack like an idiot, so you just defend the attack and then you win because the AI peters out. That stuff does happen, and it is in strategy games, but that is not That is not disproof that attack is better than defense. That is just proof that the AI is stupid. And what the AI should have done is just sat there and defended and created a stalemate. But of course, the developer did not want a stalemate to happen, so they lobotomized the AI and made it attack stupidly into you, suicidally into you, and you defended and you won. That is not counter-proof to attack is better than defense, because the situation is not balanced. That is a situation that has been created specifically to sort of be like an exception, but it actually isn't. The proof holds in any situation where the game is obviously well designed. If it wasn't well designed, then both players defend and you get nothing but stalemates. But also, in a situation where the players and resources are equal, as in any multiplayer strategy game. Not always 100% true in single player ones, but usually. But anyway, I'd be delighted to answer all your questions. I hope that this helps you guys. And this sort of answers the question as to how I can just pick up a game and play it and be good. As you guys have said to me, that you find this perplexing, how I just pick up a game and play it and be good at it, having known nothing about it. Well, this is why. This is the true fundamental truth of strategy games. Usually, as always, versus AI, the developer can always lobotomize the AI to just play terribly, and in that case, there's no real reason to think about it strategically, right? If the AI is bad, you just demolish it and move on with your life. But presuming that the AI is good and that it understands how to attack as like a player would, then all of this holds true. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed the classroom, and I will see you guys next time.